welcome back. Still watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. And just before the break, we gave you some headlines and some expectations on the program. Well, I think yesterday was World Trump Day, but the effect is still reverberating all around the world, especially after those executive orders that he did give. Very interesting ones. Africa was not mentioned directly, but we know that a lot of Africans will be affected one way or the other. But let's get the perspective now of the products lead in Africa of Branch International, Adani Anene, right here in the studio. Hi, Adani. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you followed the inauguration and all the pronouncements, and I believe one of those that stands out for Africans is the one about the childbirth and citizenship. We know a lot of Africans used to do that, so it seems that era is over, I think. But leaving that, the issue of the tariffs and import duties, everybody was scared that, first day of inauguration, we're going to hear that, but it's been postponed, even if it's just postponing the evil days, and we saw the market react to that. I wonder if that gives Africans a bit of reprieve, if eventually when it happens, I want to use when, because it seems we're sure that it's going to happen, if we can expect major changes in our trade relations, in our handling of, U.S. relations and all of that?
Well, of course, I watched everything and I followed everything. Really interesting inauguration, really interesting first day. Everybody knows that Trump has taken up a protectionist policy, and it's America first, and he's protecting American interest throughout. I think that the trade tariffs, I have a feeling that it's not going to affect Africa, or even if it affects Africa, it's going to affect Africa indirectly. First of all, we have the AGOA agreement, which was signed between Africa and US, and I think that that is going to be renewed in 2025. If for any reason it's not renewed in 2025, that is when we'll feel the brunt of the changes in the policies. But if it's renewed, I think this is going to be a good dispensation for Africa. And also, when I say it's going to affect Africa indirectly, I'm referring to the trade tariffs that will probably most likely be placed on China, because Africa is a big exporter of raw materials to China. And if there are trade tariffs increased on China, that could reduce the demand for supply for raw material from Africa. And so that is a way that it could indirectly affect us. And then one other way, which I think that could be positive for Africa, and especially for the tech industry, which I belong to, is I think that this is going to be a crypto-friendly, AI-friendly policy dispensation. And so in those ways, I think that Africans can breathe a sigh of relief, but also hope that the AGO is not affected.
That's the AGOA, yes.
Yes, the AGOA.
Okay,
yes,
but if that's affected, then that's a direct impact on African trade and import and export.
Of course, because the AGOA is an agreement that was signed between Africa and the US in 2000, I believe, and it's renewed periodically, and it's due for renewal, incidentally, in 2025. And it reduces tariff on major exports from Africa, almost 90%. And so if that is removed, or if that is not signed, then for some reason, then Africa, all the 54 countries are going to feel the brunt of the new tariffs. But I keep my fingers crossed that it will be signed.
Yeah, well, at least the signing of that tariff, it has been postponed for a bit.
Yes.
We even saw the dollar react to that. Yeah. Immediately. So but how do we see, looking at Africa and all of that, its policies and the movement of the dollar? Now we know even our debts are being serviced. So anything that happens to the US economy, anything that happens to the dollar also affects us. How do you see it from that perspective?
Well, I think Africa is mostly import dependent. A lot of our spending, a lot of our debts, a lot of our economic policies, we denominate in dollars. And so if the dollar keeps appreciating, That is, so it has, is a two-edged sword. It could potentially be negative in terms of our debts becoming bigger. However, I think that in terms of incoming and inflows, we should expect some positivity to that effect. So it's just a two-edged sword.
And then there's a hint that the reserve, the strategic reserve of the U.S. oil, would be filled up. But the thing is, U.S. deals with WTI. We do Brent. Is there a way we can benefit from that?
Well, there's always a way to benefit. There is always a way to benefit. It's a bit vague right now because we're on parallel paths, but I think that we should just stick with what we're doing and make sure that we're on the positive side of whatever relations we have with America, because Trump has said that it's America first, and whoever is putting America first is who Trump is going to prioritize.
So we have to say it's Africa first, or at least Nigeria first.
Yes, of course, it's Nigeria first, it's Africa first. However, when you're in a place of, what's the word to use, disadvantage, where you are reliant on this other economy, then you have to create a very perfect balance so that you feel the positivity from the new dispensation.
So what should African countries be doing at this time, maybe to hedge or make the most of the America First stance of President Trump?
Well, I think the Africa economy should become very introspective. We've always been preaching for this. We should try and push our self-reliance. There are 1.3 billion people in Africa. I think that we could promote our own trade within Africa. The AFCFTA was created, I think, in 2001 to enhance trade between African countries. And so that could be enhanced and made better, and we could create better processes with the AFCFTA so that we're trading better within ourselves. I know that we're reliant on the US economy and other regions, but finding a way and a balance to create this trade within ourselves. Also, I think we should diversify and just reduce the dependence on our trade relationships with the US and China. I think we should diversify to other Asian countries. I think we should diversify to Europe. And so that could help hedge against whatever is coming from the US.
And that would be interesting, but it's just that things like payment system within Africa, travel, papers, bureaucracy within Africa, these are major distraction to moving in this perspective, in this direction.
Yes, absolutely. We've thought about that a lot. There's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of regulation. There are 54 countries. It's very tough to find a common ground. So in pushing for a better intra-Sub-Saharan trade process, we should build better payment systems. We should build a Pan-African payment system that works for all the Sub-Saharan African countries. We should also place an emphasis on creating ease in regulation with trade between African countries, and also just focusing on creating a agreement to hedge against currency fluctuation, because that's what creates the fear and the lack of trust between two countries in trading within Africa.
All right, I do hope we can do that, especially seeing that President Trump is very emphatic about America first. Africans also have to look out for themselves. Well, thank you so much, Adanne Anene, Products Lead in Africa for Branch International. Thank you for your perspective.
Thank you very much.